Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to be hearing from myself, City Manager Shelley Dickenstein, and Chief Richard Beal. Also, we have the entire Dayton City Commission here, and want to say on a personal note how I continue to appreciate their leadership and fortitude and great advice they continue to give to us at the city and council. I appreciate them, especially during these past 14 months. The Dayton community is not alone in wanting to be heard, to seek change, to express collective frustration, anger, and sadness. It has become clear that the current tension in our entire country has left many feeling unheard. It is also clear that civil unrest and breach of the public peace can occur quickly and without connection to those who protest peacefully or those who reside here. Yesterday, we experienced several hours of peaceful and necessary protest. As night fell, our community's peaceful protests were co-opted by individuals intending to do damage to our community. There you go. Sorry about that. The city supports every resident's right to protest this national tragedy. However, we cannot ignore civil unrest that violates public peace and threatens our safety. Therefore, we will be extending the curfew in downtown Dayton, which will go into effect again tonight at 7 p.m. We will see what happens. This evening we could have a citywide curfew if necessary, but at the present time, a downtown Dayton curfew for downtown Dayton and the Oregon District, the same boundaries as last night at 7 p.m. Okay, finally, we know it is easy to forget about COVID-19 during this time, especially amid the feelings of anger and frustration, but there still is a very real risk from this disease. And we ask that residents not lose sight of potential exposure. For those who choose to engage in peaceful protests, public health still recommends social distancing and remaining home when possible. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the City Manager, Shelley Dickenstein.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. After the events of last evening, the city remains concerned that threats to public safety could again escalate, and keeping our community safe is our first priority. A curfew was issued for downtown and the Oregon District yesterday after civil unrest and a breach of the public peace. This curfew is still in effect and will be enforced as long as it is needed. At the recommendation of Chief Beal, the curfew will be extended and expanded from 7 p.m. until 6 a.m. We are uncertain when we will lift this curfew. Residents and businesses are encouraged to go about their normal business. Vehicle traffic within the core of downtown near Courthouse Square will be limited until the curfew is lifted. Residents will be permitted to enter, exit, and leave the downtown area during curfew hours. Businesses will be permitted to operate normally until the curfew. We do recommend that all residents, even those not residing downtown, consider staying home during curfew hours. The purpose of this order is not to limit the ability of citizens to go about their daily activities. The purpose is to limit the ability of large groups to form solely for the purpose to cause damage or incite violence in our community. The city fully supports the community in their desire to protest. We will not, however, we cannot allow for our businesses to be damaged or for people, our community members, to get hurt. And now I'll turn it over to Chief Beal.
So good afternoon. I just want to provide you some basic overview of the outcome of some of the activities last night. In terms of arrests, we had 36 individuals arrested last night. 33 of those were for misdemeanor offenses. The majority of those would be for violating the curfew, which is misconduct and emergency. We'd also had 3 individuals charged with felony accounts. 24 of those arrested reported a residency in Dayton. 12 reported residency in other jurisdictions, so a third of them were not from our city. There was a considerable amount of damage in various areas in the downtown area. That included Greater Dayton Premier Management that had property damage, Lily's Bistro in the Oregon District, multiple businesses in the Fire Blocks District downtown on 3rd Street, the Victoria Theater, multiple parts of Sinclair Community College, and that including from breaking windows to vandalism, graffiti, etc. You're going to see some examples of that now overhead. Police vehicles were also damaged. I don't have a report yet on all of the assaults against police officers or injuries. We were trying to tally that information last night, so I don't have an update on that. I do know one Montgomery County Sheriff's deputy was transported for an injury. There are other minor injuries for which officers maintain engaged in their duties. We're still trying to tally that information. We still don't have all the locations of potentially damaged identified yet. So this particular object is of great concern, potentially an incendiary device that was found, remnants left from the crowd. So gives you some idea of level of risk. You're going to see eventually we'll show you some driving behavior. That's a police vehicle damaged. I think that was GDPM. You'll see some driving behavior that cause substantial risk to individuals in the community. You'll see here now in the video. And this went on for a long time, quite honestly. Plus vehicles at a high rate of speed up and down 3rd Street, going the wrong way on streets downtown. So the vehicular traffic, it's violation of traffic laws, going against green of traffic, high speeds, people hanging off of vehicles. It was quite dangerous for the downtown community. Understanding at the same time we had police officers on foot in many of these areas, representing risk to them. So just to give an example of some of the unlawful behavior that we were challenged with addressing last night. Once again, I will commend the regional police response that had to deal with long hours and engaging crowds of individuals who had no interest in being law-abiding and in fact had intention in some degree of damaging the city, even talk of burning the city down, including violence against police. So this was not a lawful event. It was not a helpful event in any way. For anyone who felt there was a need to protest, this was not the way to do it. And we can't accept that because it puts too many people at risk. And so enforcement action taken was necessary and appropriate. So turn back over to the mayor.
Thank you, Chief. Questions? Probably you'll have more for the chief, but I'm used to that.
I'm wondering if you can give us an update on the incident at MJ's yesterday. We heard from a witness that said it appeared someone from the business had fired shots in the air.
We could not confirm the source of those shots. We will say without doubt there were shots fired downtown last night. We had 3 separate calls of shots fired. I talked to the commander on the scene. He said, without a doubt, there were gunshots fired downtown. The source of that, 3 different calls, we could not identify, which is the challenge when night falls and visibility is challenged. The activity can occur, and we're unable to identify it, locate it, and prevent this community or our police officers from being harmed. So we couldn't identify source.
Any surveillance video you're able to review with
We have so much video. We have not located any related to that I'm aware of. In fact, I don't know if actually that area has video coverage or not. We have 20-plus cameras downtown, so there's a lot of areas that have coverage, like the Federal Building is not. That's covered by other video, so it just depends on the location. I just don't know if we have video from there. Correct, sir. You are absolutely right. Yeah, it's to basically be able to resolve any problems we may have before nightfall. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was absolutely, we are not going to allow people to get on 35. In fact, the conversation, as people began to head toward the Oregon District, was there was intention to do property damage. There were bottles of rocks launched at police personnel at that location, so the crowd had already become aggressive and assaultive, and we were not going to allow that to continue into US 35, so we had to draw a line.
You mentioned that there some of the residences were from out of town, some of the people arrested. Are we talking people that are Miami Valley, outside of the city, or people from well outside the
Don't have that specific information. I do some are regional, so they're not far from our community, but I don't have all that level of detail.
We noticed some road closures out earlier, some trucks blocking roadways.
Right.
Ramp for exits 53 on I-75 is still closed. Talk about, I guess, why that is and how much longer those closures might be in place.
Well, I can tell you, you saw in that video, and that was very limited. I mean, the driving traffic downtown was frightening. It's absolutely frightening. And the ability to quickly shut down vehicular traffic when it becomes that dangerous is crucial. And we need hard stops to do that. So we basically use public works vehicles to do that. We've done it in the past, and we'll continue to use that strategy to the point it's necessary. So really shutting down vehicular traffic was crucial to being able to establish control of the area.
Any idea when those roads may be reopened?
I can't tell you at this point when that will happen. We will just have to see how the day progresses. I would hope, first of all, the vast majority of members of this community were law-abiding. Many, many people who were involved in the protest yesterday did so in a lawful and responsible manner. That needs to be the conduct that goes forward. Engaging in property damage, assaultive behavior, firing weapons is just unacceptable. It cannot be allowed. It puts everyone at risk. It serves no useful purpose. It is not a means of change. It just is not. I lived through this very personally decades ago. I saw the escalated crime that went on for a decade because of the events that happened in 2001. I have a very personal view of what this terrain looks like forward if violence is allowed to continue. So that is not a way to create a better world. It is not.
How many officers might we see downtown this evening?
You know I'm not going to answer that question. Never am I going to answer that question, right? We intentionally, because it is it's contraindication to public safety, to establish a police force and number of people and resources and what we're going to do. So we're not going to disclose that. We will have ample police personnel available to address the safety needs of this entire community. That I will tell you.
Mary Whaley, after all of this initial period of unrest and over, what's the state going to be evaluating and what needs to change, if anything?
Well, we know a lot needs to happen, and we are once again thrust into a national issue that's having local effects, which we're quite used to. It seems to be the nature of the work over the past year. But that doesn't mean we're perfect, and it does mean that we still have work to do, and Chief and I agree on this. So we will be working in the coming weeks with thoughtful leaders in our community to work on those efforts. We've never stopped doing that, particularly around dismantling systemic racism, which affects the city Dayton proper to the whole region, since we are the place that barrels down on the belief of equity and inclusion. And so we will take internal looks to make sure that we're doing that work, both for our police department, but all of our departments. You'll see us moving forward on efforts that are already underway. We'll continue to do that work. And we welcome people to the table that want to be thoughtful, that want to really change systems. That's who we want at this discussion. There are many people in our community that are interested in that, and some that have been working on it for decades. We appreciate that work, but we're looking forward to new voices too. But we cannot support efforts that are a threat to public safety or a threat that damage our community. Too many people from all sides of town have worked hard for this city. This is our city, and I know that they're counting on us to make sure that we protect our city as well. So you'll be hearing from us in the coming weeks for sure.
Mayor, as far as some of the property that was obviously your case last night, is that cleanup effort that starts immediately?
Well, it's already starting. If you've seen this morning, the folks, the ambassadors from the Downtown Dayton Partnership were out and about. I've gotten texts from multiple people that own businesses downtown commenting on how quickly the cleanup has happened. Again, you know, downtown just isn't the downtown for the people that live there and work there. It's really the whole communities, and I think people recognize that. And so we saw folks coming in this morning just wanting to help clean it up, which was incredibly moving, very appreciative. And I think honestly, I think that's why we saw less unrest than other communities, because it is everybody's community. And you know, we recognize that a lot of times these things happen because people don't feel that they own any part of it. And one of our goals is to continue to make sure that everybody has a place here. But we have to have a place that is everybody's. And so tearing it apart will not do that. And so we're hoping that we can continue to have real change in our community and in this country. You know, there are things that are happening to Dayton that are as frustrating for the city commissioners and myself and the city manager and the chief of police that we have no authority over either. And we need change there too. So you know, there are changes for our community, changes for the state, and changes for the country that we need to get to work on. Some of us have been working on it for a while, and we welcome new people to the table every single day.
And Chief, sorry to make this.
That's all right. We're used to it.
As one more comes up in the days, was kind of this incident there, is that something that remains an investigation? Is there more, interviewing of anybody to come, or is that?
Yeah, I can't really tell you specifically. I believe that our efforts last night to identify source were unsuccessful. I don't know that any further effort will be successful, but I can't rule that out either. So there's a lot, quite honestly, we need to be following up on, because there's damaging that occurred, and if we can identify people that are responsible, then they need to be held accountable for those acts. So there's much work to be done still in terms of reviewing the entirety of what happened, the damage that occurred, who's involved, et cetera. So there's a lot of work ahead of us. So that specific incident, more than what I said, I can't share more.
Are either of you aware of any planned demonstrations this evening?
There's events going on across the city right now. We hear different pieces of them. We don't have like this is confirmed or not confirmed. So again, the other thing that's different than even 10 years ago, I think 11 years ago, the apps were invented. So, you know, this is all new. Things pop up really fast and people move. There's not necessarily a leader in a lot of this work. And so I think that's why we have to have the curfew in place to make sure that we protect people. And that's why we also reserve the right, should things happen, to be able to have a citywide curfew as well.
Any rough total or estimate on total cost of damage last night?
Not yet. I mean, I think the downtown folks will be doing that work, and I think they'll have an estimate in the coming days or week. No, I mean, honestly, compared to what I've seen in other communities, you know, this is a national issue, and so I think that our police force did a terrific job. I think the people of Dayton have been incredibly thoughtful. I mean, just the vast majority of people that are in solidarity with the issues of the protests, but value our community, are 90%, and there are people you don't even see out there, right? But You know, this is everybody's Dayton, and so we have to make sure that we protect it.
Chief, any change in strategy tonight if something goes off? Are you guys changing from what you did yesterday?
He's probably not going to tell you that.
That was a good response, Mayor. What she said.
All right, guys, you guys be safe. Take care of yourself.